Letters from the Lighthouse, Chapter 8. Loose lips sink ships. As I ran down the main street, other people were coming out of their houses, women still tying on pinnies, old men in their undervests, children rubbing the sleep from their eyes. I was glad to find Cliff almost immediately, standing with Queenie on the steps of the post office. I tried to hurry him back inside, thinking the cellar would be the good place to shelter. "Oh, give over, Olive," Cliff cried. "No one else is going in." Incredibly, there was no air raid warden, nor any sign of one on their way. We might as well have been watching a horse race or a carnival procession for how relaxed everyone seemed. Determined not to leave Cliff on his own, I muttered crossly how foolish it was not to go inside. Everyone was gazing out to sea. It was a bright winter's day, the sun so low and glary you had to shield your eyes, yet the dark shapes of the Luftwaffe were clearly visible in the sky. "If Jerry bombs my cabbages," said a man with shaving foam still on his cheeks, "he'll have me to answer to." "Oh, Jim," Mrs. Moore, who ran the bakery, called across the street, "they're heading for Plymouth, you daft apeth, not your garden." What bothered me was the planes were getting closer and louder. There were 6 of them, 1 out in front, 2 flying higher, 2 directly below, 1 bringing up the rear. They flew parallel to the coast, close enough to see the distinctive black crosses on the plane's sides, close enough to be almost level with the long, low platform of rocks on which stood the lighthouse. "Let's go, Cliff," I said again. "In a minute." He shrugged off my arm. "This is the cat's bananas." "They're German fighter planes, real ones," I said through gritted teeth. "It's not some film at the Picture Palace." I didn't like that he'd used Suki's phrase either, and got it wrong. Someone shouted, "Look, they're turning inland by the lighthouse." Just a few hundred feet above the lighthouse, the German formation was changing shape. "That bleeding lighthouse," said the old Mr. Watkins, whose tobacco ration I delivered every day. "Them Jerry pilots are using it to find their way. Look at 'em, clear as day they are." "Not surprised," Mrs. Moore replied. "It stands out like a beacon." I watched in despair as the first plane turned almost at right angles. The others followed close on its tail. It was obvious that they were, like the man said, using the lighthouse to guide them in. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Queenie bend down and pick something up off the ground. Within moments, the sky above us darkened. Everyone cowered down. I grabbed Cliff and we clung to each other. It was terror on my part, though Cliff was grinning madly. At little more than roof height, the planes went over. You could see the numbers on their undersides, the sections of metal held together with rivets. The stench of burning engine fuel made my throat catch. And the noise! It was so horribly high-pitched. I thought my ears would burst. "Geez," Cliff yelled. I couldn't bear to look any more. It was then that I noticed Queenie. She was the only person in the street not cowering. Her arm raised, she was hurling stones at the planes. I don't know if she hit them. It was her face that shocked me more. Glasses askew, teeth bared, she looked almost savage. Once the last plane had gone over, a stunned silence fell. It made the ringing in my ears even worse. Then all at once everyone was talking in that jokey, shrill way that people do when they've been scared and are relieved it's over. Finally, Cliff let me drag him back up to the post office where, once inside, we started babbling with nervous excitement. "If they'd turned their guns on us, we'd all be dead," I snapped my fingers, just like that. It was amazing, Olive. Terrifying, more like. The plane was so close, wasn't it? Did you see what the pilots did? It was like the lighthouse was a signpost or something, telling them where to turn. "Did you see Queenie?" I stopped, reddening. Queenie had come in close behind us. I thought she'd overheard. Luckily, though, she was deep in conversation with Mrs. Henderson. "Ephraim wouldn't take her," Mrs. Henderson was saying. "He's too busy with the lighthouse." "Huh. Queenie tutted irritably. "And the rest of us aren't busy, I suppose, so it's easy for me to take her." I wondered who they were talking about. "It's probably just his way of saying that he doesn't want her finding out before it's all been arranged," Queenie cut in. "We mustn't get her hopes up." It all sounded rather mysterious. Mrs. Henderson nodded. "You know how he is, dear. He doesn't get attached to anyone, does he? He'll never marry that one, not after what his father was like when his mother died. Poor Ephraim's seen enough heartbreak to last him a lifetime." "We all have," Queenie retorted, though she honestly didn't seem heartbroken, not like Mum did. She looked tough as steel. Then she sighed. All right, one more won't make any difference. She can double up with Olive in the attic. Before I realised what was happening, there were 3 people, not 2, in front of us. Cliff, Olive, you better meet our new evacuee. It was Esther Jenkins. Crikey, Cliff said under his breath, just our luck. My heart sank horribly. We've been doing all right here with Queenie these past few days. It felt like we were settling in. Now I'd a nasty sense that all was about to change. Why don't you show Esther to your room, Olive dear? Mrs. Henderson suggested. I'll take her, Cliff offered, seeing my face. Come on, Esther. Sullen and silent, Esther picked up her suitcase. She followed Cliff through the door at the back of the shop that led to the rest of the house. Go with them, Mrs. Henderson mouthed, shooing me away. I shot Queenie a pleading look, but she ignored me. So reluctantly, I did as I was told. As I left, Mrs. Henderson said something I didn't catch. She did what? Queenie gasped. Shh, not so loud, Mrs. Henderson hissed. You're the only one left with any room. I could hardly put her in my goat shed, could I? On the other side of the door, I hesitated before closing it. They were talking about Esther. It's probably a misunderstanding, Mrs. Henderson said. Esther swears she explained bacon wasn't kosher. That's why she wouldn't eat it. She wasn't making a fuss for no reason. I knew what kosher meant. It was the type of food a Jewish person would eat, according to their beliefs, which must mean that Esther was a Jew. Queenie breathed in sharply. That chicken won't be kosher either. None of our meat is. Have you spoken to Mrs. Drummond? I didn't catch the answer. Something was happening upstairs. A door slammed at the top of the stairs. Then footsteps clattered down the attic stairs, stopped and went back up again. That's my room, Cliff was saying in a rather pained voice. I'm not sharing with a girl. By the time I reached the first floor landing, Cliff was sounding more desperate. No, Esther, you can't just take over. Something bumped across the floor overhead. There was another thud, a laugh. Stop it, those are Olive's, Cliff cried. In a rush of anger, I charged up the attic stairs. The cheek of it! She'd only been here 5 minutes and was already interfering with our things. Then Esther said, Your sister's got a lot of socks. My heart stopped. She was in my sock drawer, where I'd hidden Suki's note. Put that back. It's not yours, Cliff protested. Esther laughed. Is it a love letter? Has Olive got a sweetheart? I stormed into my room. The floor was strewn with clothes, my clothes. Esther was in the process of clearing the top 2 drawers. She'd also moved my books from the windowsill. What are you doing? I cried. Making space for my things, she said, as if it were obvious. By the way, I found this. Between her fingers, she twirled Suki's note. It had very recently opened. I licked my lips. Is it a love letter? Esther asked again. No, I stammered. I don't think so. Don't you know what it is? She was surprised. So it's a secret code. Isn't that a bit dangerous? I wiped my palms on my skirt. I knew what she was implying and took a step towards her. Are you calling my sister a spy? Esther Jenkins slowly smiled. I don't think I mentioned a sister, did I? I realised then what I'd done. I put my size 5 foot right in it.